Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to Roaring Skies. Um, I'm gonna call this the season finale, but if Nick wants to do more episodes this season, it's gonna be up to him. So today is April 25th, 2026, and what um what severe weather stuff are we gonna cover? Am I going to cover today? Is the question that probably everyone has. So at this point, let's go ahead and real quick. I'm gonna pretty much go into. Sorry, my nose is kind of being weird. So about that, let's go ahead and look into event summaries because I had a very good idea. A very good idea. So we're going to cover. I'm going to cover this instance of tornadoes back in 2002. So, by the way, this information is coming for courtesy of the National Weather Service in Paducah, Kentucky. Hold on, I think I have my shirt on backwards. Give me one moment. Is this seriously in my shirt now? Okay, there we go. So, we had an F3 tornado hit so in Wayne County, Illinois, we had a tornado impact enter Wayne County about a half a mile north of Illinois Route 15. Then it proceeded to move northeast to point about 1.5 miles north of Wayne City. The tornado then paralleled Route 15 just north of the town of Sims. The tornado continued moving east towards Fairfield, then passed through the south part of Fairfield with F3 intensity. The tornado then traveled slightly south of east towards Golden Gate. The tornado weakened east of Golden Gate and finally dissipated in extreme eastern Wayne County near Ellerly. The sole fatality occurred 4 miles west of Wayne City, where a 47-year-old man was killed inside his mobile home. Of the 42 hospital treated injuries, 13 were critical. A total of 35 homes were destroyed and 16 received major damage. The average wind speed in the tornado was 130 to 170, with peak winds at or approaching 200 miles per hour. The F3 damage was located near Sims, southern sections of Fairfield, and near Merriam, in areas west and north of Wayne City. Vehicles were picked up and disposed in homes, while constructive homes lost roofs and some walls. Weaker structures, including a tavern near Sims, were demolished. And these were the images that were caught after the tornadoes went through that day in 2002. And this is a lot of damage. I'm going to be honest. This is a tornado. Is a pic of the tornado by Mary Hurley. She sent this to the National Weather Service. This was a picture of that tornado. We're going to look at it real quick. So that was the photo of that tornado. The structure of that tornado, it looks like a wedge. So April 24th, the Carter and Butler County tornado. The tornado damage began on the west side of Van Buren, right across the Current River, and crossed US 60 very close to the Current River Bridge. Two businesses in Van Buren, a lodge and a restaurant, were heavily damaged by EF2 intensity winds. Excuse me. The tornado traveled southeast across hilly and forested terrain until reaching the community of Elsinore. Damage on the south side of Elsinore was severe, where about 7 businesses were destroyed. Most of the damage at Elsinore, which was inflicted by F4 intensity, occurred along and near US Highway 60. Across Carter County, 13 homes were destroyed and 12 homes suffered major damage. The tornado then moved into the Mark Twain National Forest and crossed the Butler County north of Highway 60. I'm going to continue reading it off screen. So then proceeded east southeast, passing 6 to 7 miles north of Poplar Bluff, an upscale residential subdivision beyond the northern outskirts of Poplar Bluff, just off US Route 67, received extensive damage. At least 2 well constructed homes were leveled by peak winds estimated around 210 miles per hour, which that tornado, if it was rated today, would be rated EF5. Just letting you guys know, that tornado would be rated EF5 today if it had 210 mile per hour winds. There were no fatalities from that storm, by the way. And then I'm going to real quick share my screen again since it shows damage photos. So this is the damage photos. Sorry. From that storm, and wow. That is devastating. And I have to preface that this happened in 2002. That this happened in April of 2002. This was taken by Mark Goslett of the National Park Service for the Ozark National Scenic Riverways in Carter County, Missouri. This was a picture of the tornado. This was a multiple vortice tornado. By the way it looks, this was a multi-vortice tornado, and that's very unfortunate. There was also on April 28th, 2002, there was tornadoes in Bollinger County, Hopkins County, Franklin County. We had a lot of tornadoes that day. That day too. The Bollinger County tornado first. This strong tornado with peak winds near 180 touched down in a rural area southwest of Marble Hill. A total of 19 residents were 19 homes were severely damaged and 6 were destroyed. Approximately 10 of the residents were mobile homes and 15 were single family homes. Another 50 outbuildings, such as barns and sheds, were destroyed or damaged. 7 people were inside a house that was demolished. One of the victims, a 12-year-old boy, was thrown out 50 yards from the house and fatally injured. Several others in the immediate area, possibly the other applicants in the house, were thrown into a nearby lake and swam to safety. Of the 16 injured in the tornado, 4 were airlifted to hospitals with serious injuries. Cars were stacked on top of each other. Several residents were trapped inside the debris of their homes for up to 3 hours. A large number of trees down across roads delayed the arrival of rescue teams. The second tornado, Dongola to Cypress, Union and Johnson County. The tornado first touched down in very hilly terrain in the Shawnee National Forest, and then tracked east, crossing Route 127 just north of Mill Creek. The tornado then directly struck the community of Dongola, where most of the damage and casualties occurred. A 69-year-old woman was killed as she was attempting to flee her mobile home. The woman had just gotten into her car and started the engine and turned the light on when the tornado struck. She was blown away from the car and found dead under a structure across the road from where the vehicle was parked and still running. Elsewhere in the Dongola area, a train was blown off the tracks, several wood homes were demolished, and 7 double wide trailers were destroyed. Approximately 75 homes were damaged. A recreational vehicle was tossed across Lake Dongola and impaled into the ground. The tornado entered Johnson County near Cypress and was on the ground for only a few miles in Johnson County. Cypress was impacted directly, where about 50 structures were damaged, including a school. The school lost portions of the upper story walls and the roof. 2 trailers were destroyed. And then we have another tornado that occurred as well. We did have also a microburst that occurred in Franklin County as well. There was also a tornado from Providence to northern Hopkins County, Kentucky. The tornado crossed southern Webster County, producing major damage as it paralleled Highway 120 through Providence. About 24 persons were injured, and they were transported by ambulance to regional hospitals. 1 person was critically injured. The tornado produced F3 damage in Providence, then weakened to an F2 tornado just east of the city limits. The tornado struck a mobile home park in Providence, destroying 16 of the 20 mobile homes there. About 10 permanent homes were destroyed, and about 100 more homes were damaged. The tornado crossed into Hopkins County just west of Nebo and finally lifted after moving through Hanson. The tornado was rated at EF3 intensity in the Nebo area, where 4 chicken houses were blown off at their foundations. About 45,000 chickens were left in the debris. Damage to 1 chicken facility was estimated between $1 and $2 million. The tornado weakened as it progressed across the county. About 10 to 15 residences were significantly damaged in the area. And these are the photos from that outbreak. Yeah, and that's pretty much all the information that the National Weather Service gives me for this information. So um, it may be a pretty short episode. Um, so we're probably whoops, sorry. That's some editing I'm gonna have to do later. Sorry. So that was accident. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and I'm going to real quick go ahead and I'm also going to go over more weather events than that because that was a little short. I will be honest, it was a little short. So we're going to go ahead and cover more storm days. So we do have a this one here. So we're going to share this one instead. All right, so we're going to cover I'm going to cover real quick the November 6th, 2005 Evansville tornado. This tornado was an F3 with winds of 200 miles per hour, which now would be an EF4, a high end EF4 now today. So this tornado, this tornado touched down in 2 miles northwest of Smith Mill in northwest Henderson County, Kentucky. It ended in northeastern Spencer County, Indiana. This tornado was on the ground for 1:39 a.m. through 2:24 in the morning. This tornado was on the ground for 45 minutes and was on the ground for 41 miles. This tornado had 25 fatalities, and there was approximately 230 injuries. 20 were critical, and 63 resulted in hospital admissions. At least 500 homes and buildings were destroyed or severely damaged. Most of the damage was upper F2 to lower F3 intensity. And this was what the path was of that tornado. It went through the southern half of Evansville and then went through near Newburgh and then near Boonville and Tennyson. Tennyson was actually hit directly. This was the only before the tornado. On the morning of November 5th, 2005, folks across the tri-state area woke up to a rather warm, humid morning with temperatures in the upper 50s to lower 60s with light southerly breeze. Thunderstorms were in the forecast for the day, with chances becoming more numerous throughout the night as the cold front was forecast to move eastward across the region. Severe weather was a possibility at this point in the day. The thinking was the storm could produce hail and damaging winds based on the strong winds throughout the atmosphere. By late afternoon, temperatures had surged into the lower 70s with a strong southerly wind. In fact, the high in Evansville on November 5th was 77 degrees, which was 1 degree shy of the 78 record of 78 degrees set back in 1975. By 6 p.m., a broken line of storms had formed in Missouri along the cold front. The threat for severe weather was increasing, with damaging winds and hail being the main threats expected, along with a few isolated tornadoes. The broken line of storms over Missouri was expected to congeal and strengthen into a fast-moving squall line ahead of the cold front. This strong to severe line of thunderstorms would move into southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and southwest Indiana during the evening into the overnight hours. Below is the radar image at 6 p.m., which it was by 1:15 a.m. And there was rotation. Let me real quick actually oh, why is it showing me this one? I want to see the other one. So there was this storm here in Union County. It was starting to rotate, as you can see here, at 12:17 in the morning. So there was very strong rotation. As the storm was moving into Posey County, it started producing strong rotation here, and as it moved into Vanderburgh County, Henderson County, into Vanderburgh and Posey, this tornado, this is what the radar looked like. And let me real quick go ahead and preface this. Radar wasn't as good as it is today. Again, radar wasn't as good as it is today back in 2005. So rotation can be missed, especially with storm action. And with that, it was, the damage was horrific. And they did issue a tornado warning. They issued a tornado warning. A tornado warning remains in effect until 2:15 a.m. for Vanderburgh County. At 1:52 a.m. Central Standard Time, National Weather Service Doppler radar continued to indicate a tornado near Cypress, moving northeast at 60 miles per hour. The city of Evansville is in the path of this possible tornado. The safest place to be during a tornado is in the basement. Get under a workbench or other piece of sturdy furniture if no basement is available. Seek shelter on the lowest floor of a building in an interior hallway or room, such as a closet. Use blankets or pillows to cover your body and always stay away from windows. I'm going to be honest. The wording in the tornado warning in 2005 is way better than it is now. I want this wording back. I'm not going to lie. This wording would actually get more of a response nowadays. If it tells you as the city, that city is in the path, obviously you have to shelter. And also, look at this. Even for 2005, this was tight rotation at its tightest. And this was paralleling I-69 and moving into Vanderburgh County into the Evansville metro. And that's a very dangerous precedent to set with that storm specifically. And they did circle it on this product here. where the tornado was on radar. And that is horrific. When it went into Vanderburgh County, this is the damage that it produced. The tornado crossed the Ohio River for a second time and moved back into Henderson County at 1:50 a.m. Henderson County was still under a tornado warning that was initially issued at 1:32 a.m. This part of Henderson County is sparsely populated floodplain used mainly for farming. The tornado then crossed the river for a third time, less than a mile west of the US Highway 41 Twin Bridges. The river does not form the state line at the third crossing. From the bridges, extensive tree damage was visible along both sides of the Ohio River. Almost immediately after crossing the river, the tornado slammed into a horse racing facility named Ellis Park. There was extensive damage to the grandstands, and housing facilities for jockeys. A few race horses were killed. This facility was the first major facility to be impacted by the tornado. The tornado then crossed back into Vanderburgh County, Indiana, after striking Ellis Park. Which this is what the tornado looked like at that point. And this was the damage to Ellis Park. A lot of damage occurred here, and very unfortunate. At 1:54 a.m., the tornado crossed back into Vanderburgh County, Indiana. The tornado moved rapidly east-northeast at close to 60 miles per hour, staying a mile or less south of I-164 and the southern city limits of Evansville. Shortly after 2 o'clock a.m., the tornado moved directly over Eastbrook Mobile Home Park, which is on the south side of the interstate. 20 people perished at this mobile home park. Of about 350 mobile homes in the park, 100 were completely destroyed and another 125 were damaged. Several of the fatality injured persons were found in a nearby retention pond that was drained to find victims. An 8-year-old child was found alive in a ditch after being trapped under debris for about 5 hours. One person died of complications from tornado injuries on December 17th, 2005. And this was what the radar image looked like at 1:58 in the morning. When it impacted that mobile home park. This was the damage to the Eastbrook Mobile Home Park in Vanderburgh County. A tornado warning was issued by the National Weather Service for Warwick County at 1:59. At 2:03, the tornado exited Vanderburgh County and into Warwick County, Indiana. Due to extreme rate of speed, the tornado crossed the entire county in less than 20 minutes. The tornado reached its peak intensity in Warwick County, where winds reached about 200 miles per hour. The peak winds occurred along Highway 261 and Lincoln Road, in an industrial park near Paradise, and in Degona Springs as the tornado passed south of Boonville, the county seat of Warwick County. A teen girl was killed in a vehicle in the community of Degona Springs. 3 persons in a mobile home were killed. One of the victims was a woman who was 8 months pregnant. From the north side of Newburgh to Degona Springs, homes were severely damaged or destroyed, and vehicles were tossed. The vehicles passed just south of Tennyson before exiting into Spencer County. And this was the damage that was observed. And this was the radar image. And yeah, you can see it here on the radar image. This was the damage from near Boonville. This was the damage from Warwick County. At 2:11 a.m., the last tornado warning for this tornado was issued for Spencer County, Indiana. The tornado passed just to the south of Tennyson before exiting into Spencer County. The tornado crossed into Spencer County for Warwick County at 2:22 just before dissipating. Some tin and insulation were found in a field at the end of the tornado track. The tornado was estimated to have weakened to F0 intensity shortly before it entered Spencer County. And here it still had tight rotation. You can see where it stopped. You can see there's ground scattering. You can see where this tornado went. So so we're going to go into the meteorology of it. During the early morning hours of November 6, 2005, a supercell thunderstorm spawned a deadly F3 tornado that impacted parts of northern Kentucky and southwest Indiana. The environment that ultimately supported the development of this tornado and another F3 tornado in western Kentucky evolved dramatically from about 6 p.m. the evening before, with the most significant changes occurring in the 3 hours immediately prior to the tornado touching down. On the weather maps, a low pressure system was centered over central Missouri, with a cold front extending southwest to north central Texas. A warm front running northeast from the low near Chicago and then southeast into the Ohio Valley. The atmosphere was warm and relatively moist for early November. Winds at the surface level were southerly and became southwesterly at about 5,000 feet up. The best wind shear was contrasted in the lowest 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. Bulk shear magnitudes for layer between the surface and 20,000 feet was around 40 knots, which means that organized storms, including supercells, are possible. As we will see, the wind speeds at specific heights in the atmosphere will play a large role in the formation of this tornado. Short-term models were used to monitor the evolution of the environment during the evening and into the early morning hours before the tornado. Through the evening hours, the primary chance that was occurring in the atmosphere involved an increase in the low-level winds in the low-level jet, which jumped to 60 to 65 knots. Even more changes would take place between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. The approach of the upper level disturbance caused winds to increase in the mid levels of the atmosphere. Winds at the 500 millibar level increased to 80 to 85 knots by 2 a.m. And winds at the 700 millibar level increased to 60 to 65 knots. There was already plenty of wind shear in the lower levels and aloft as well. By 2 a.m., wind shear parameters became very favorable for supercells and tornadoes, and this amount of wind shear was not noted earlier in the evening in previous model data. Changes occurred with moisture content at the surface as well. As the line of storms to the west moved eastward, moisture surged northwest and dew points creeped into the lower 60s, directly ahead of the cold front. In summary, where the there were signs of an improving environment for tornadic supercells. No available model guidance was able to create as favorable a tornado environment as was observed. So this was what it looked like at midnight, and that is just crazy to think about. That was what happened. And then 1 a.m. we had this one. This was, they were intersecting together, and this was just unfortunately a very volatile situation. Now we're at 1 a.m. You can see how the approach of the faster mid-level winds coincided with the strong level winds. This created an increase in wind shear. Not too long after the juxtaposition occurred, two tornadoes touched down within a few minutes of each other. One of them from the beginning being the beginning of the Evansville area tornado, which stayed on the ground for 41 miles. The weather above, the map above at 1 a.m. shows the surge of moisture northward due to the substantial increase in low-level winds. This moisture pulled right ahead of the cold front and aided increasing the severity of the storms. Having wind shear in the atmosphere is the only part of the equation. We also had quite a bit of instability as well, especially for early November. Due to the strong southerly winds ushering in the warm, moist air, this map shows the lapse data at 1 a.m., indicating CAPE and lifted index. Both measured of instability. You can see the bullseye of the greatest instability was over southwest Indiana and the northern Pennywright region of West Kentucky. And then here, our one parameter we use to analyze whether or not a storm has the ability to rotate and hence could produce tornadoes is called helicity. On this lapse data map at 1 a.m., you can see the highest values in yellow, orange, and red were located over southwest Indiana in the Pennywright region of West Kentucky. And that's the meteorology of what happened and why it happened. And why it happened. I decided if this would be the finale that I decided this would be the finale of Roaring Skies, that I would season finale, that I would do multiple things at once. Of course, this was the hey Talon. Anyway, the I wanted to cover these tornado outbreaks because they happened in our region. By the way, we talked about today the April outbreak of 2002, which there were several tornadoes in April 2002. And then we also talked about the Evansville tornado of November 6, 2005. So I think we went ahead and covered everything that I could cover tonight. Obviously, it's 1:32 in the morning. I can also real quick go ahead and give you guys a weather update because you guys are probably wondering what the weather is going to be doing on Monday, because obviously that that outbreak is definitely something we are watching for our region, and that's we have to watch. And okay, we have a moderate risk for parts of Oklahoma for today. Tomorrow there is a level 3, and then Monday. Okay, this is not Monday yet. I guess I have to wait till 2:30 this morning for the update there. Let me check if they released it. They usually wait to go ahead and issue that until later. There is a slight risk for the level 2. So this is day 2. It does include parts of our western counties for severe weather threat tomorrow. This is one for today. Yeah, McAllister, Ada, Ataka, and the Choctaw Nation. These areas are going to see numerous severe thunderstorms. This is just a threat that's, I guess, conditional. The majority of the threat is mostly, I think, the hail threat. Yeah, it's the hail threat that they're looking at here. Okay, it's the hail threat they're looking at. And there is severe weather still ongoing. There is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the Jackson, Mississippi, near Vicksburg, Redwood. There's a severe thunderstorm warning. It looks like there's a little bit of rotation there, just to the north of Redwood. Just to the north of Redwood, which is also showing up on rotation product. So that's definitely something we'll have to be concerned for the next several minutes. This severe thunderstorm is in effect for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and nickel-sized hail is the warning information on that one. There is still some storm advisory storms in Louisiana in multiple parishes, so that's definitely something that you guys will have to watch. There is also there's no storms in Missouri right now. Absolutely none at this point. There may be a storm in never mind, that's just the radar being weird. Okay, so most of the storm action is in Arkansas and Tennessee. I meant Arkansas and Mississippi. Sorry, guys. So in Arkansas and Mississippi. And by the way, I can't click these cameras because you have to get permission for them. So I will let you know with the I'll give you guys more information as I get it for those events.